English Dreamer presents Beat Poetry of the 40's, a symbol of youth and rebellion. The Second World War furthered an already tumultuous relationship between the countries of the world, and this affected not just the political sphere but also the social scene and the literature of the era. At the beginning of the 20th century, there was a serious turnaround in world politics, and as a result, everything that was previously known as the way of life was now lost to people. This era saw the emergence of several new literary and artistic movements, especially in Europe and the USA, including Expressionism, Impressionism, Dadaism, Surrealism, the avant-garde movement, and more. As people lost more and more of their security, their stability, and the strict moral code that formed the foundation of their society, their writing turned more and more towards the surreal, the hidden, and the so-called free part of their social world. The Beat poets were one such group of people that wrote primarily between the years of 1940s to 1960s during the height of the Second World War. They embodied the maddening underworld filled with jazz, drugs, and sensuality, and it showed through their writings. They denounced social norms and chased taboo subject matters, dealing with themes of mental illnesses, capitalism, materialism, the loss and lostness created by the war, and more. The Beats' defiance of authority and their experimentation with drugs and sex helped set a generation on course for the counterculture of the 60s, wrote George Judson for the New York Times in 1997. One of the most well-known Beat poets is Allen Ginsberg, and today we're going to talk about him. Allen Ginsberg was born on June 3, 1926 in Newark, New Jersey, US, and died on April 5th in New York. Ginsberg had a literary influence in the form of his father, who was a poet and a teacher. His mother suffered from mental illnesses and was confined to a mental asylum for a long time. Ginsberg went to Columbia University, where he befriended William Burroughs and Jack Kerouac. Ginsberg, along with Burroughs and Kerouac, engaged in several anarchical and illegal activities both on campus and off campus, and eventually Ginsberg was kicked out of Columbia in 1948. In 1965, the New York Times reported about Ginsberg's time in Columbia and his expulsion, saying, "One scribble defamed Jews and the other made an unflattering reference to the then president of Columbia." Critic Diana Trilling, in a controversial essay, The Other Night at Columbia, has since interpreted the first remark as a symbol of Ginsberg's rejection of the Jewish middle class. Ginsberg to this day insists he had no intention beyond trying to shock an anti-Semitic Irish cleaning woman who worked in the dormitories. The cleaning woman was in fact offended. She reported the scribble to the dean, who, likewise offended, expelled Ginsberg. He was later readmitted to graduate with a BA in 1948. Ginsberg picked up odd jobs for almost a decade while he was traveling and writing. His poem Howl was then published, establishing him firmly in the public eye. Ginsberg's Howl is his most famous, most widely known, most quoted poem. Even I've read the poem more than 10 times and can recite the first few lines myself. "I saw the best minds of my generation, destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked." And on it goes, running over 70 lines in length, with 3 parts. It's passionate, dithyrambic, and almost sounds like it was created in a bout of define afflatus. Britannica describes it as prophetic, owing something to the romantic bohemianism of Walt Whitman. It also dwells on homosexuality, drug addiction, Buddhism, and Ginsberg's revulsion from what he saw as the materialism and insensitivity of post-World War II America. Howl made a tremendous impact, mostly negative, when it was published. Ginsberg was put on trial for the obscenity and supposedly callous statements made in the poem. The poem was published in 1956, and the publisher of the poems, Lawrence Ferenghi, was arrested. Ginsberg and several other poets and writers testified for the social value of Howl, and it was subsequently ruled not obscene. Ginsberg once said of his poetry, "Everything I write is in one way or another autobiographical, or present consciousness at the time of writing. Whatever travels or psychic progressions I've had are recorded there. And Howl embodies this. The New York Times makes this remark about him. They say, also, there is all over the world a younger generation with values and aspirations different from their elders. Ginsberg's impact, coupled with and perhaps abetted by the vehement disapproval of him by established authorities, is a conclusive sign of youth's rebellion. For he does and says publicly what many of the world's young do and say privately, and thus becomes their spokesman. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe. Created by Mrunal Rajadhyaksha.